Today I'm going to be talking about The Bleeding by Cannibal Corpse. The album was released on April 12, 1994. It is celebrating 30 years. I'll talk about the history of the band leading up to the album, how they changed their lineup a few times, the musical direction of the band, the controversy over the album cover, and the meanings behind the song lyrics. First, some history about the band leading up to this album. This band is known for being part of the emerging Florida death metal scene in the early 90s, but they actually began in a different part of the United States. They're from Buffalo, New York. You might not know this, but the greater Niagara and Buffalo area had its own emerging death metal scene. This included bands like Beyond Death and Tyrant Sin. Some of the former members of these bands made a new band, and they called it Cannibal Corpse. They formed in the end of 1988, and within a year they were signed to Metal Blade Records. Then they released their debut album called Eaten Back to Life in August 1990. It was at this point the band decided to relocate to Florida to be part of the emerging Florida death metal scene with bands like Death, Deicide, and Morbid Angel. The band went through some struggles. They had problems keeping a consistent lineup, and they changed members often. For example, one of the founding members, Bob Rousset, was fired from the band, and then he became a golf instructor. Years later, Chris Barnes would be fired, and he would form his own band, 6 Feet Under. He would be replaced by the current George Corpse Grinder Fisher, who was originally in a band called Monstrosity. This brings us to the final album with Chris Barnes called The Bleeding from 1994. This is also the first album with Rob Barrett, who is the current guitarist in the band. This is also the 5th best-selling death metal album in the United States and their most successful album to date. The band was somewhat in a transitional stage at this point in time. Chris Barnes wanted to take the sound to a different direction, which would be more of an accessible sound, adding more groove to the sound, using a vocal style where the listener could decipher the lyrics better. After leaving the band, he would adopt this sound for his current band, 6 Feet Under. I know the band 6 Feet Under gets a lot of hate these days, but I will be honest with you all. I thought their first album was not too bad. But anyway, back to this album. There are some other aspects of this album that are notable. The guitar riffs were more technical. There was a lot more stop-start riffing. You could also hear the bass guitar at different points of this album. Let's talk about the album cover. As you know, their cover art has always been controversial. So there was the original cover, a censored version, and 2 other versions, the cover and from the remastered versions. I'll be showing all of them in a minute. So here's the original cover. To me, it does not look too graphic, but I've also been desensitized after looking at so many album covers over the years. But in my opinion, it's much tamer than some of the other album covers I've seen. Here's the censored cover. It looks like a raw cut of meat. In my opinion, I don't think censorship was necessary, but then again, this was 1994, so people were not used to this kind of thing. Here's the first remastered cover. This one is kind of bloody, but mostly masked by the band logo and the text. Here's the other remastered cover, just like the original, but they use a different tone. There's a close-up of the zombie in the middle. The album also has a music video that was featured on Beavis and Butt-Head. It's funny because Butt-Head says that everybody sings like this right now, and Beavis compared it to a pep rally. So here's a clip of it.
You go to pep rallies?
Yeah. Sometimes I go just to check out the bus.
Now let's talk about the songs. There are 10 songs. The album is 36 minutes long. The remastered version has a cover of the Possessed song called The Exorcist. The opening track is Staring Through the Eyes of the Dead. Lyrically, it's a very dark song. It's about a person who has died, but they are aware of everything that is happening to them. They can't move or speak or feel anything apparently. It appears they are at a mortuary and the coroner is performing an autopsy, or at least that's what it appears to be. The person is conscious of what's happening, so in that aspect, it's very dark. Musically, Chris Barnes sounds very good. This was when his voice was in better form. He has 2 different vocal styles, the lower range vocals and the higher fry vocals. The guitar riffs were very complex, and the song went through different tempo changes as a typical Cannibal Corpse song would do. The next song is called Fucked with a Knife, and this song is straight and to the point. That's the first of two puns I will be making talking about the song, because lyrically, the song is what the title says. The lyrics graphically describe the person doing what the title says. So when it comes to writing lyrics, this band doesn't beat around the bush. And that's the other pun that I promised. But anyway, song is 2 minutes of just brutal, sick, gory death metal, what you would expect. The next song is just as bad, called Stripped, R-Word, and Strangled. This is another song where the song title describes what happens in the lyrics. Basically, it's about a serial killer who finds women and does the 3 words comprising the song title to this person. The lyrics are pretty graphic. The music is very good. I think on this one you hear a little bit of that 90s alternative creeping into their sound. They have some of those stop-start guitar riffs. Chris Barnes has more of an alternative vocal style, if you want to call it that. But overall, very good song. The next song is called Pulverized. First, let's talk about it lyrically. It's about a serial murderer who just enjoys killing people. But from what I understand, it appears that someone tried to sneak up behind him and kill him, but he survived and he continued to kill again. That's my interpretation. Musically, it's more of what the band likes to deliver. There are parts of the song that have isolated guitar parts where they stop the drumming completely, so that works very well. And throughout the song, you can hear the bass guitar very well. That's pretty cool. It's another really a good song. The next song is called Return to Flesh, and lyrically, it's about a person who was murdered, and the person narrating the song is the dead person. They're in some sort of purgatory where they're completely aware of what happened. They're aware of the fact that they're dead. They don't really know what's going on or what's going to happen next, and they have this idea that they want to go back and avenge their murder, or that was my interpretation. Musically, this is one of the songs that shows the contrast between the slower, heavy riffs and the super fast and technical guitars and drums. Overall, another good song. The next song is called The Pickaxe Murders, and lyrically, this one is about what the title says, a person who stalks people and kills them. There are parts of the lyrics that are very graphic. Otherwise, the song was just like the rest of them. Straightforward death metal. There's one section where you hear the isolated bass guitar. That's always nice to hear, but so far it's a really good album. The next song is called She Was Asking For It. As the title suggests, it's about a murderer or a guy who killed his significant other, or at least that's what it appears to be. He's feeling some kind of remorse. It seems he misses her, and he can hear her screaming from the grave, although the title suggests she was asking for it, so it appears he doesn't really want to take responsibility for what he did. He wants to blame her for bringing him to that point, the point of killing her. Musically, it's still a very good song. I think this band knows how to make a song interesting by changing tempos, doing different things with the drums, the different things with the bass, and at the same time, they keep that consistent sound. I think this is what this band does better than almost any other death metal band. The next song is called The Bleeding, which is the title track. It's basically about the dead coming back to life. There is a zombie outbreak. That's basically the gist of the song, and it ties into the album cover where you see the zombies walking the streets. Musically, I think it's a good song. The guitar riffs have this circular feel. I guess that's the only way I can put it into words. But as I prepare for this video, I listen to it with headphones, and that helps you hear everything. The production is very good. You can hear the guitars, you hear the bass, you hear the drums. Everything is very clear. And the next song is called Force-Fed Broken Glass. And the song basically describes what happens when the song title is carried out. Basically, you have a person being force-fed broken glass, and they describe everything that happens to the body after this happens. The band really gets graphic. They broke out the medical textbook on this one. They go over all the damage that will happen to your internal organs. They basically describe everything, and that's basically the song. It's a really good song. It's pure death metal. At the end, they have this breakdown. It reminded me of some groove metal, specifically Pantera. It was almost as if Dimebag Darrell was playing the guitar at the end part of the song, so that was pretty cool. The next song is called An Experiment in Homicide. This one is about a person who wants to murder somebody just to see if they like it. So they kill a person and they find out that they enjoy murder. So they continue to kill people, and every time they kill someone, they start to do different experiments with dead bodies, such as sewing pieces together, things like that. Musically, it's pretty straightforward death metal. There was one part where they toggle the left and right channels. I was listening with headphones, as I said, and that was a part where you kind of like experience like what's going on. So I like that. Was another pretty good song. Also, the last official album track, but there's one more song, the bonus track, which is a cover of The Exorcist, originally by the band Possessed. So let's talk about that now. The bonus track was a bonus track for a reason. I guess it didn't really fit with the tone of the album. I guess I didn't like it that much, and I think it's because this album had this recurring theme about murder and killing, while this song was more about the dark and satanic themes, and it was more of a straightforward death metal song with black metal influences. Musically, it moved at breakneck speed. It was super fast all the way through, and I'm not really familiar with the original, but as a bonus track, it's okay. I'm just glad it wasn't a regular album cut because it would have taken away from the consistency of this album, which brings me to the conclusion. Thought it was very good. I think I really need to listen to more Cannibal Corpse. I'm only familiar with their last two albums that I reviewed on my channel. I got into this band very late, but anyway, that is all. Check out my review of the last album from 2022, Chaos Horrific. Please like this video. It helps me with the YouTube algorithm. Please subscribe if you have not already. I do rock and metal reviews. I do rankings. I do much more. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next one.